Everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. I'm a medical educator right here at Westminster Multispecialty Clinic located in the heart of Dubai Healthcare City. Today, we're going to dive into something that affects literally almost every single one of us, the very real physical consequences of modern office life. If you spend your days at a desk, stuck in meetings, or commuting across the city, you might be dealing with this stiffness or pain that you just can't seem to shake. Well, in this explainer, we're going to use our clinical expertise to show you exactly why that happens and, more importantly, how we can fix it.
So here's our game plan for today's consultation. First, the reality of prolonged sitting. Second, how sitting actually changes your body. Third, why standing isn't the magic cure. Fourth, our clinical approach to recovery. And finally, some small habits that create really meaningful changes.
All right, let's jump right into part one, the reality of prolonged sitting.
Okay, so you've probably heard this phrase floating around, sitting is the new smoking. It sounds incredibly dramatic, right? Maybe even a bit exaggerated for something as completely unavoidable as just sitting down. Now, at Westminster Multispecialty Clinic, we don't use fear tactics. We are definitely not saying sitting is chemically identical to tobacco. But researchers and health professionals draw this comparison to challenge the assumption that sitting is just some neutral, harmless resting state. Because the substantial clinical evidence we see, it supports the fact that prolonged sitting is linked to reduced circulation, cardiovascular issues, impaired metabolic function, and some absolutely massive musculoskeletal consequences.
12 to 14 hours. Take a second to process that. Most people drastically underestimate how much of their day is spent seated. But when we consult with patients, this staggering number is usually the reality of their daily routine. And you have to remember, for the vast majority of human history, sitting this much was incredibly rare. Movement and varied postures were just baked right into daily life. The human body simply was not designed to handle 12 to 14 hours of sitting every single day.
And it builds into this relentless daily cycle. Honestly, this is the exact routine we see with almost every professional who walks through our clinic doors. You start with the morning commute. Then you spend 6 to 8 hours chained to a desk. You get back in the car for the drive home. And finally, you spend your evening recovering on the sofa. Throw in some meals, a little screen time, a few video calls, and boom, you hit that 14-hour mark easily. So the crucial point is this. Your body adapts to what it does most. And when what it does most is sit in this endless cycle, the adaptations it makes are exactly what causes all that dysfunction and pain.
Which brings us to part two, how sitting changes your body.
Let's look under the hood. These are the direct clinical observations we make at Westminster Multispecialty Clinic. Sustained sitting systematically breaks down multiple structures all at the same time. First up, the spine. When you sit, especially if you're slouched over, you put the lumbar spine into a flexed position. The mechanism here is intense compression on the front of your spinal discs and severe stretching of the ligaments in the back. The consequence over time? Disc degeneration, severe joint stiffness, and chronic lower back pain. Next, the hips. Your hip flexors shorten significantly. Remaining in that contracted position for hours means they actually lose their ability to lengthen fully. The consequence is an altered pelvic alignment, an increased arch in your lower back, and direct contributions to both hip and back pain. Finally, the mid-back. Thanks to prolonged desk work, the thoracic spine tends to stiffen into this rounded, flexed position. And the consequence of this rounding is poor shoulder mechanics, severe neck pain, and, believe it or not, a reduced capacity for deep breathing. It's a total systemic breakdown.
But there's one specific condition we frequently treat that is absolutely critical to understand. Gluteal amnesia. Sounds a bit funny, but it's the inhibition of your crucial stabilizing glute muscles due to all that sustained sitting. Basically, when you sit on your glutes all day, they just shut off. They fail to activate, they stop supporting the pelvis, and they don't control your lower limb movement. So what happens when your glutes clock out early? Well, your body has to compensate. This forces the lower back, the knees, and the hips to painfully take on the load that your glutes were supposed to handle.
Let's move to part three, why standing isn't the cure.
You see standing desks everywhere in Dubai offices nowadays, and the intention is genuinely great. But simply swapping prolonged sitting for prolonged standing, you merely trade one set of musculoskeletal risks for another. Instead of spinal compression, shortened hip flexors, and that gluteal amnesia from sitting, you risk lower back strain, intense knee stress, and foot pain from standing. At Westminster Multispecialty Clinic, our team's approach to this is super clear. The true goal isn't replacing sitting with standing, the goal is variety. A healthy body is one that regularly alternates between sitting, standing, and moving throughout the entire day.
All right, part four, our clinical approach to recovery.
So how do we actually fix it?
Well, here are the exact steps our physiotherapy team takes to systematically reverse these changes through our chronic and back pain physiotherapy process. Step 1, posture and mobility assessment. We identify exactly what has changed in your body and what needs to be addressed. We don't guess, we assess. Step 2, targeted reactivation exercises. Remember that gluteal amnesia? We use specific exercises to wake those glutes right back up, strengthen your deep spinal stabilizers, and restore flexibility to your hip flexors. Step 3 is thoracic mobility work. We target that mid-back stiffness to improve your overall postural alignment and fix that rounded desk worker look. And Step 4, manual therapy and joint release. We get hands-on to reduce joint stiffness and physically release areas of chronic, deep muscle tension. It is a highly structured, proven path to restoring proper movement and eliminating your pain.
And finally, Part 5, Small Habits, Meaningful Changes. Look, clinical treatment is incredibly effective, but it's really only half the battle. Here are some highly actionable, evidence-supported habits that you can start today to support your treatment and prevent any regression. Set a timer on your phone to stand and move for just 2 to 3 minutes every 45 to 60 minutes. Instead of messaging a colleague, just walk over to their desk. When you take a phone call, stand up or pace around the room. Add a simple 10 to 15-minute walk to your lunch break. Seriously, it makes a measurable difference. And choose the stairs over the lifts whenever you can. Now, none of these changes are super dramatic on their own, but together and combined with targeted physiotherapy that addresses the damage you've already accumulated, they produce a massive, lasting shift in how your body feels and functions. Which leaves us with one final, powerful question. If you're already noticing the signs, what is the cost of doing nothing? The physical consequences of prolonged sitting, they don't just plateau, they progress. Stiffness eventually becomes limiting pain, and pain becomes a barrier to living your daily life. The earlier you identify and address these consequences, the easier they are to reverse. If you recognize this cycle in your own life, right now is the time to seek support. We invite you to contact our expert team at Westminster Multispecialty Clinic. We will help you understand exactly what your body needs and build a personalized plan that actually fits your life, so you can start your recovery today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and we really look forward to helping you move better and live pain-free.